you turn out fine. Fine, oh, you turn out fine. But you gotta keep your head up, oh, and you can let your head down, hey. You gotta keep your head up.
Good evening and welcome to the Carolyn Holt Show. You know what? I can't believe summer is over. I think the last time I had a live show, it was approaching Labor Day. But Labor Day has come and gone, and I was not here last week, but I'm back, and I am excited to see and hear from all of you. If you'd like to participate in tonight's show, please feel free to call me at area code 323-293-3375. Again, that's area code 323-293-3375, because we have a special guest tonight. Her name is Donna Shannon, and she is an author. And Donna has written a very important and necessary book. You can find her book on Amazon, and the title of her book is Beyond Miseducation. I'm going to repeat it, Beyond Miseducation. And the reason that Donna wrote this book is because she is the mother of a profoundly gifted black man, which is can cause a lot of issues in America when black men are profoundly gifted. But she has an adult son that was born very gifted and talented, and her struggle was with the school system and the issues that arose as a result of not properly addressing his intellectual capabilities. And she does not want another family or parent to have to go through what she went through regarding raising her son. So she has written this book as a way to help parents recognize some things about their children very early so that they can get in front of the issues that might crop up. So I'd like to introduce author and mom, Donna Shannon. Hi, Donna.
Hi.
How are you?
Doing great, thank you. Thanks so much for having me today.
Oh, well, I am so delighted that you agreed to come and share some very valuable information, because the good news is that your son is now really grown. He's like 29 years old.
Almost.
And so I guess that's where we'll start. As a parent and as a mom, how does it feel now that you're on the other side of some of the challenges that you had? We're going to talk about those in the next segment, but right now we just kind of want to talk about you and some of the things that you faced that just it was difficult, but you came through it anyway. And I know sometimes as parents we go, oh my God, this is just too hard. But you have to step up to the plate.
That's right.
And take your swing at bat. So
you're asking how I'm feeling right now?
Yes, as a result of all the things that you've gone through and this book that you have written to help us better understand miseducation.
Well, having gotten through the education part for my son, the pre-college education part, it was like a ton of bricks fell off of me. It was so hard, but I had to do the book, and I just didn't really have any peace until I got this book written.
Okay.
I had to do it because, one, I needed to give my son something to feel that what he went through wasn't for nothing.
Okay.
It had a purpose.
All right.
Otherwise, he felt like his life was almost an accident. He had such a hard, ridiculous time in public school.
Okay.
And we did a lot of homeschooling, but we'll go into that later. So there was that, and also I figured I could share our story and also do some research and give some suggestions and encouragement to other parents. And that was real important to me, to help other kids not have to go through as hard a time as my son went through.
I hear you. Now, when you say you wanted to help other parents, you know, that's a very noble cause, because many times when people struggle through things themselves, they don't necessarily want to help others. So when you decided to write this book, how did it get its title?
I had read, I think, The Miseducation of, what exactly?
Is it Negroes by Carter
The
G.
Negro,
Woodson?
yes, Carter G.
Okay.
Woodson. I had read that, and I figured, well, what my son is going through is beyond that. It is beyond miseducation. It felt like diseducation, like they were sucking his gifts out of him and just making him forget what he was so interested in. And he hated school. They made him hate school. He was so excited to be going to the big school the first day.
Aww.
And that very first day, he came home thinking, why am I going? And by second grade, he wanted to drop out, literally.
At second grade.
Second grade.
That is, I mean, I remember second grade for myself, and it's just not even, I loved everything but the nap that you had to take after. I hated that part. But I loved school. So when you hear someone say that, you know what, I don't want to go back to that place ever again, it's cause for concern.
Yeah. People, and I understand this, these children, profoundly gifted children, they're rare.
Okay.
There are more of them than people think. I think people don't hear much about our families because nobody understands, and we just kind of disappear and do our homeschooling thing or something, because you can't really explain it to people. They think you're exaggerating, you're overprotecting, or whatever they think. And I understand that, but it's very hard on the families who are experiencing this.
Yes. Well, share with us a little bit, because at the time, now, were you married at the time, or you were married before all of this?
Okay. I was married before, and it didn't work.
Okay.
And we were divorced, and I was putting my things in storage, and I was going to go. I'm not in Virginia right now. I was going to Virginia to just chill with my mother, mind my own business, stay to myself, and I met my son's father.
Okay.
And you ladies, I say this in the book, do not let yourself rebound soon after a divorce or any kind of breakup, because you're not in your right mind. And I know I was not in my right mind. Okay. I thought that God had dropped this man out of heaven just for me. But
okay, well, that sounds like a reasonable belief that you had gotten a special gift out of God. I like that.
Yeah, but
okay.
It didn't work. It didn't work. He had, unfortunately, a violent streak that I'm grateful I found out about before I married him. Okay. And I thought, for the child's sake, because I was pregnant, we were going to get married, but after the violent part happened, I wasn't going to put myself or the child at risk, so we went our separate ways. And what point was I heading toward?
Well, no, we were just talking about yes.
Mm-hmm. So, no, I wasn't married. I did my situation with my son mostly by myself.
Yes.
My mother tried to be supportive, for as much as she could understand of what was going on. Yes. But she was, and my stepfather, they were very, very open to having us in their home, while I did the advocating and homeschooling and things that my son needed that he just couldn't get anywhere else. Well, I know what I was going to say before. When you're a little child and you are 5 or 6 years ahead, your knowledge and skills and experience are 5 or 6 years ahead of grade level, typical grade level. There's nothing you can get in your grade level classes to interest you. You're past it all. And if the school doesn't care to let the child learn on his or her own level, all they do is teach them to hate school.
Yes, I understand that. And the reason I asked you to share a little bit, because our audience is 18 to 34. And many times we think some of the things that have happened to us in life, it wasn't that meaningful. But it's amazing how our stories can help other people. And that's why I'm so excited about having you on tonight, because I already know that your story will help a lot of people, because many times parents just don't know what to do. They don't know what to look for. They have no recognition that God has really blessed them with something special.
Yeah.
But because you've been through that process and you have some insight into what it looks like, that's why I asked, because I don't want another person that may be in your situation with a profoundly gifted child to just give up.
Yeah.
I want them to know that you've been there and that you've done that and that you're sharing your story and you have great insight that might help them.
Yes,
So,
I hope so.
yes.
I needed to write the book because if the schools knew, his schools knew how gifted he was. They had his William and Mary records. Don started in William and Mary classes when he was 4 years old and was successfully participating. Public school, as they bored him into misbehaving, decided he must have ADD or ADHD, probably needed medication, probably even needed special education. And I knew right then and there, if they would suggest these things for my son, and they knew his needs were just different, and they refused to address them, what are they doing with so many of our children that may or may not have ever been recognized for their gifts? They may be playful because they're really, truly bored, and nobody knows or cares.
Yes. But you said that you recognized something very special in your son very early. You just didn't know how special this particular thing was, and that was his ability as a baby coming out of your womb. Tell us about that. What did he do?
When they handed him to me in the hospital, he lifted his, at the time, big, heavy head and looked me right in my eyes, almost as if to say, "Oh, you're Mom. Okay, you'll do." And then he laid his head back down, and that didn't mean anything to me at the time because I had no idea, but a few years later I read that newborns can't lift their heads like that. And that was an indicator of being advanced in a lot of other ways as well.
Right. But the doctor at the time, the doctor didn't say anything.
No.
I don't know if he was even paying attention that your child had done this. Yeah. So that's why I am sharing with you that I'm grateful to you for at least creating a baseline so that when these new parents go and they pick up these wonderful children, they can check out everything and they can know whether they really have something special or they have something really special.
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you can go ahead and make your statement.
Well, I was going to say, I think a major key is to really spend time with your children. You don't know what they can do if you're not playing with them and reading with them and everything. My son was in 2 book clubs from the age of 1.
Wow.
And at around 2 years old, no, he was 2, we're sitting in the floor in one of the rooms surrounded by books, and I had picked up another book to start reading, and he said to me, "No, Mommy, let me." And he really was reading. He was pausing after commas, changing his voice inside of quotation marks. And I would not have known that he could do that if I hadn't spent that kind of time with him.
Right.
So
when they say certain things about your child, you can either agree or disagree because you're paying attention.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to go to break shortly, but when we come back, we're going to get into the actual school days that he experienced and give a little bit more insight about what happened and the things that you did and how you responded to the situation.
Okay.
Now, if you want to be part of tonight's conversation, please feel free to call us at area code 323-293-3375. Again, that's area code 323-293-3375. Donna Shannon is my guest, and she is talking about Beyond Miseducation. And the great news in this book is to help you know when you have a profoundly gifted child, especially a male child. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Fun for you and everyone. Play it each and every day.
Master math the easy way. Sing it, play it, Math Maze.
Why not turn math time into fun time with Math Maze, the new game craze? Get yours today at mathmaze.us.
Mom, now you can help your son master math and have big fun. Play it each and every day. Master math the easy way. Sing it, play it. Math Maze.
Make sure your child owns the skills necessary for success in high school algebra. Get it now. Mathmaze.us. Mathmaze.us.
Dad, now you can help your daughter play it like you know you oughta. Play it each and every day. Master math the easy way. Say it, play it. Math Maze.
Math Maze cards contain both Spanish and English. Get yours today at mathmaze.us. That's mathmaze.us.
I wrote these words for everyone who struggles in their youth.
Thank you so much for joining the Carolyn Holt Show tonight. As my special guest, I have Miss Donna Shannon. She is the author of Beyond Miseducation. Now, Beyond Miseducation can be purchased on Amazon. So just go to Amazon.com. Is it / anything in order to?
No,
Okay.
no, but you select, there's a couple of, well, there's one drop down to the left and you select books.
Okay.
And then just type in Beyond Miseducation.
Okay. Now, what I'd like to do, I'd love to hear from you parents who are struggling with children bringing home report cards that say, oh, too talkative and never sits still. And these are indicators often, not that the child can't learn, but that the child perhaps is bored. So I remember one time the teacher sent home a note and said, you know, your son is really talking too much, and he seems to be having a great time in class. So I said, well, if there's a problem, then maybe you need to move his seat. And then he said, oh. And so I'm thinking, well, is there something wrong with talking? And but I guess it is if it's going on during class time. But one of the things that I noticed about Beyond Miseducation is that chapters 3 through 13 start with the word, the prefix dis.
Yes.
Now, when I saw that, I went, my goodness, it must have been a lot of things that went on with your son.
Yes.
And just by some of the words that you use, I can tell that you were not only overwhelmed with looking for a solution, but overwhelmed with the lack of support.
Yeah.
And while many times people say, well, if you want a good education, a public one is not the way to go. But why shouldn't it be? Public schools should be held, as far as I am concerned, to the same standard as private school. Because if it's about education, we are taking a captive audience, which is the young mind, and molding it and teaching it, and the amount of dollars should not affect the outcome. So with that said, tell me why all the dis. The first dis is, let me see, disvalue. Now, what age group, what age range was your son under this particular dis?
Well, if that was the first one,
yes,
that would have been kindergarten / first. Oh, yes. When I took him to school, his birthday being in October, he wasn't quite the age to start first grade, so
okay.
They wanted to put him in kindergarten. And I said, all you want is a behavior problem. He's so far advanced from that. So their compromise was kindergarten / first grade, which really was no better. But I went along with it thinking, okay, they'll see what he can do and they'll skip him. But they never did. So they totally disvalued his readiness for a higher level of instruction or exposure to whatever, maybe not real structured instruction so much, but give him something of a higher nature, higher level to experience. They wouldn't do it.
And now, what do you think the reason was that they didn't want to take your word for it that your son was should have been at least first or second grade by this time?
Actually, no. When a child is 5, 6 years ahead of what's going on, skipping 1 or 2 grades doesn't do any good.
Okay.
They need to be skipped several grades.
Several grades. Okay.
I think it seems from my limited research, the prevailing school culture, excuse me, goes against skipping. They are really stuck on the kid needs to be in school, in class with children their own age. Mm-hmm. But if you can't relate to them at all and they can't relate to you at all, the child is alone, isolated, even in a crowded classroom. And that was my son's situation 90% of the time. Second grade was the only class he had where the one good thing about the class was his teacher guided those children to all get along nicely, you know, and so Don, he got along pretty well with them. He never was able to make any real friends to hang out with ever in all of public school. But second grade was where he was the happiest, I think, socially.
Oh, okay. And so you're saying that the school's position was because of the social
That's what they
issue.
told me.
Yes. Well, you know, and I can understand some of that, but like you said, if it's clear that he is capable and he will get bored if he's not challenged, then why not at least try it? And if it does not work, is there some danger in at least trying?
Yeah, because then if you skip them appropriately, at least they can enjoy learning. If they can't enjoy the socializing, at least they can enjoy learning, rather than being stuck in a class where they can't enjoy either.
Okay, and you also mentioned that many times your son was bullied by not just people, but by African American students in particular, or black students in particular, because he was bright.
Before I forget, I want to add that when he started school, they did not have to take my word for his level of giftedness. I took his William and Mary records to them, and they started testing and testing and testing, and no matter how well my son did, they still insisted he needed to stay on the age-appropriate grade level. As far as the bullying, that started in earnest maybe 3rd or 4th grade. And I think, now I liked his 4th grade teacher. I think she tried. If she did recognize things in him, her hands were probably tied because of what she was instructed, how she had to do her class. But okay,
But by this time, though, as mom, were you frustrated? Were you overwhelmed? Were you tired? How would you characterize?
All of that, all of that. And in 2nd grade, I was offered the option of getting him assessed for ADD or ADHD.
Okay.
They wanted him on medication, thinking that would calm him down, keep him still and quiet. I didn't want that at all, but I was told that if he got that label, it was a disability, and with that he would get what I thought I heard would be an individualized education plan, an IEP, but what he eventually got was what is called a DEP, differentiated education plan, which, if you get the book, you will see meant nothing. Oh, but anyway.
Oh, okay. Well, it did mean something to the people saying it. It didn't mean anything to you.
It didn't do anything for my son.
That's right, or your child.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that's very frustrating, because then you go, well, okay, where do I turn? But back to the desire to give him the label of ADHD or ADD. Was there a proper diagnosis, or did his teacher just simply say, "This is my concern"? How did the discussion even come up?
I honestly can't remember at this point who started that. It certainly was not me.
Okay.
It was either his teacher or the gifted coordinator or a counselor. I don't remember who actually started it.
But had he been tested at this point for gifted and talented? Had he been given a test to make that assessment?
Yeah, he had been given several tests.
Okay. So they did use the results.
And their tests showed him, you know, he was so gifted in every area, but not the same amount of giftedness in every area.
Gotcha.
Gifted across the board, a generalist in giftedness rather than a specialist in one particular thing. But reading was always his strongest talent, and he was like, in second grade, they assessed him as reading at fifth grade level. Well, William and Mary found that when he was 4 years old.
Okay.
They found his comprehension just under third grade level, but I think, as a school librarian told me later, the testing for reading comprehension couldn't really assess his because he's giving answers more like an adult thinks, and the test is designed to get, you know, age-appropriate answers, and so some of what he would say would be wrong to the test.
Okay. Well, now that brings us then to disregard. And to get to disregard, you have to kind of be at your wit's end. And so what was going on in school when disregard shows up? What's happening with your son at that point?
Okay, that was second grade, and he had done a lot of testing, and regardless of how high his scores were, they refused to skip him or to give him meaningful pull-out exposure in higher level classes. His DEP said he would get he would be pulled out for certain classes, but 1 or 2 grade levels up, that wasn't enough to do him any good.
Right.
So.
I understand. Well, listen, parents, Donna has been through some of what many of you are experiencing, and that is the labeling of your child in an inaccurate way that perhaps won't bring them the success that they should have if they are profoundly gifted and talented. So if you'd like to participate or ask questions of Donna, you can feel free to call us at area code 323-293-3375. Again, area code 323-293-3375. Now, so we moved from disregard because he was ready to really, he was having fun. At least by second grade, he was starting to enjoy school a little bit.
No, not really enjoying school, but he was getting along with his classmates at least. Yeah.
So the social aspect was in play. And so the next dis that you mention in the book is disappointment. Now, what happened to...
Okay, we were living in Gloucester for first and second grade, Gloucester, Virginia.
Okay.
I could see no end in sight to their approach to my son's education. So I said, okay, we're going to move. Where should we go? And I thought Hampton would be good because Hampton University was there. I thought they would be a lot more progressive. Moved over there, bought a house over there, so we were stuck. And only to find out that they were following what the Gloucester schools had started. It was more of the same. The disappointment for my son was I had been encouraging him. It's going to be better in Hampton. They're going to be better. Hampton University is there. Everything's in. And they made me a liar.
Aww. Well, you know, in the book, you share some of your son's thoughts and how he was processing things. And I'm not sure if it's in this chapter or the next, where he decides that he's not happy, and he writes a letter to Jesus.
Oh. Which one? The letter to Jesus. Do you
Yes.
know where that is?
Well, I don't know exactly the chapter, but I remember reading it, and it was like, Jesus, what are you doing? I'm stuck out here, and I need you. Where are you?
Oh.
And to have such a profound thought about Jesus at such a young age is what struck me.
Oh.
That he invoked a higher power because he knew that something was not right. He just wasn't
Yes. I think he was thinking along those lines because he was only 7 years old when he decided to march down the aisle in church and give his life to God. You know, that was his decision. I had nothing to do with it. And he told me later he did it, hoping that if he did that God would straighten out his school situation. But I don't remember in the book that he had written a letter to Jesus about that. I know he wrote to Jesus telling him he enjoyed the lightning from some storm.
Maybe that's what maybe that's what it was. Maybe yes.
But he wrote a little poem called "Falling," and that to me expressed how horrible he felt about having to be in school. It was falling into a pit of despair, falling to I don't know where, falling something in the house, falling like a computer mouse, something like that. I've got it wrong, but you know there was desperation in that poem.
Well, as a parent, you know, I can't imagine sometimes the stuff that we have to tolerate, but we do because there's no straight path in child rearing. I don't care what they tell you, and you do have to really pay attention, and you really have to have a lot of security within yourself because schools and doctors, they make a lot of suggestions. And as you talked about, the one suggestion that they often make is if there is a label for your child's behavior, they generally want to give some kind of medication.
Yeah.
And so what's your position on the medication aspect? Because I think that's where a lot of parents struggle because, you know, they recognize that the activity level may be high, but how would you assess making a decision about medication?
First, you might want to get a second opinion. In my son's case, his pediatrician did not want to label him like that. He said he himself had 2 kids who were ADD, and he said, your son doesn't have that, he's bored. That's what he said. But I wanted my son to have every chance, and if the schools would only deal with him appropriately if he had that label, I wanted to give it a try. So the school recommended another doctor, and I can remember she identified him with almost no exam at all, or maybe no exam. I can't remember, but I know it was either none or very little examination. Yes, ADD, Ritalin. And I had read about the side effects of Ritalin, and we can go into that more if you want, but the way I look at the medication aspect, parents should not rush into that, no matter who says the child needs it. I believe that a lot of times, if they do need something to help their behavior, it could be diet. You should investigate a dietary change or some dietary changes, and rather than start them on medication. Ritalin will get, and the other Concerta, whatever all they give the children for this. In part 2 of the book, it's Dr. Umar Johnson, who has a bunch of degrees and experience, talks about how those medications are chemically practically cocaine. They're stimulants, and it's almost like you're setting the kid up to grow up and be hooked on drugs. And
well, they say that one of the issues regarding it is because the structure gets changed when you put them on drugs, but if they ever go off the drugs, that's where the issue comes, because then the body has to adjust to not having them, and generally the extreme behavior is associated with that. But as always, because we want to be responsible on the show, we recommend that you talk to professionals.
Oh, absolutely.
And that you use your own knowledge of your child and make a decision that way, because I don't think that there is a cut and dried yes answer or cut and dried no answer. So we recommend parents that you gain, like Donna did, as much information as possible and then come to a decision. So we move from disappointment to disillusionment. So now, would you say disillusionment is a word that you came up with, or did the behavior of your child show you that he was disillusioned?
Oh, he was disillusioned from K1. Mm-hmm. He saw right away what it took me 7 years to figure out, that public school would never address him the way he needed to be taught. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't do it. Mm-hmm. So by 4th grade, I think he was a little tired of me telling him, okay, next year will be different, next year will be better.
Mm-hmm. And he didn't see better.
No. Again, though, that teacher was able to pull some pretty good participation out of him, mm-hmm. but he was not happy. He was bored a lot. And
mm-hmm. Okay. So by the time then we moved from disillusionment to, now this is a strong word here, to disdain.
Yes.
So he was fed up at this point.
Yeah, actually, disdain refers to how the teacher felt about him.
Okay.
Don in 5th grade had his first male teacher, and it happened to be a black man, and I was so excited, and a young black man. I was so excited, okay, now here's a teacher that's going to surely want to help Don thrive and, enjoy school and learn a lot. Mm-hmm. And a little while into the semester, I talked to the teacher after class, and I said, well, how's he doing? Do I need to talk to him about anything? And he said to me, don't worry, Ms. Patterson, I was Patterson then, mm-hmm. I will break him. And right then and there, I knew he was not going to stay in that class. He was not some horse to be broken.
Okay.
So I took him out, and we homeschooled the rest of that semester. And spring of that semester, the superintendent approved him going to middle school.
Oh, okay. Now he was what, 5th grade?
He was in 5th grade.
Okay, and so they were going to skip him 6th?
He was taking 6th and 7th grade classes. He was supposed to, according to the superintendent, take classes that he was interested in. He was supposed to be able to choose his classes. Okay. It turned out the principal of that school would not let him. She would cite logistics, and she, even though I knew that they were transporting somebody somewhere in that district, was transporting a certain Asian student who was a math whiz, mm-hmm. to, I don't know if it was middle school or high school. He was going somewhere, getting what he needed. But for my son, logistics were in the way. And I said, just set it up. I'll transport him. But they wouldn't do it. He wanted chemistry. No. He was we didn't talk about the languages he was learning before school. Okay. He was learning about 5 or 6 foreign languages before he ever set foot in public school. Okay. And I said, can you nurture any of these, keep his interest up? And they practically laughed in my face. Oh, well, the language, that's high school, and he'll never get all those anyway. Okay. So by the time he was in this 5th grade semester in middle school, mm-hmm. they did put him in a French class, and he had been learning French, and I was excited about that. It was never explained to me that that was a very basic beginning exploratory vocabulary mm-hmm. class, basically. Okay. So it was a waste because he was beyond that. And if he was playful and maybe not completing stuff, I don't know what the problem was. But all I do know is the grades I saw were always 100 plus, but yet that teacher somehow gave him a C at the end of the semester. It's like they didn't like him. They were insulted to have this little kid in their class. Rather than appreciate that he was just that smart and wanted an education, they didn't want to have to be bothered with him. That's the way it seemed.
Well, I would say that your assessment, because you were right there and paying attention, I mean, that's a reasonable conclusion.
And by the way, everything that I say in this book, the documentation is in here. I don't expect to be sued because it's their paperwork, their names are on it. I did block out signatures because in this day and age, maybe a savvy ID thief could do something with a signature. I don't know. But I did block those out. But there's plenty of documentation. I'm not just wildly complaining and can't substantiate it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we moved from disdain to disservice. Mm-hmm. Wow. That, normally with the word disservice, you're it's more about your relationship to something or to a product or something that you're unhappy about. But to to really be just kind of finished with school, because by this time he's approaching high school.
Oh no, he was still a 5th grader.
Oh, okay. I thought he was
officially.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, he passed all of those 6th and 7th grade classes.
Okay.
Even though the teachers, for example, the principal set him up with a lunch buddy, a nice kid at that school. It was the worst behaved school in the city, but we were zoned for it. So, and that's true. That's documented. But we were zoned for it, so he had to go there, and. So the principal set him up with this nice kid to be his lunch buddy. She wasn't careful to realize that by Don having lunch with this particular child, it was encroaching on his algebra class time. So he'd get in class late. I didn't know. He didn't know that he was doing something he shouldn't do. The principal told him to do it. So he wasn't finishing classwork and tests and quizzes. We never knew why. And next thing I know, I forget if it was a D or an F came home for his grade in the class, one of the grading periods, not the final grade. Mm-hmm. Actually, the final grade was going to be either a D or an F, and I said, I want to see every bit of work. I'm getting ahead of myself. It's so frustrating. But when I know how we found. No, that's not it at all. There was another thing that's even worse than this. Okay, as you know, my son was reading at least 5 years ahead of the game. Mm-hmm. And the principal put him in a certain class that only had maybe 4 or 5 kids in it. So I thought, he's in class with a few other really gifted kids. One day, Don was talking to a science teacher who unfortunately is not the teacher he was assigned to, but she liked him and let him hang out in her class when he had an empty class period, because of 6th and 7th, they couldn't always schedule him for a class. Okay. So one day she asked him about his schedule, and she told him which reading class he was in. And she was like, but that's remedial. That's the first we found out. It was a remedial reading class. So I went right to the principal. What were you thinking? How could you do this? Oh, that teacher is a reading specialist. She will differentiate for him on his level. Maybe she could have, but she never did. She had him reading and discussing, and I don't know what else they did, 3rd and 4th grade books like the rest of the class. Okay. And is there any wonder he wasn't happy to be in that class?
Right. Well, I think they may have known about his unhappiness, but choosing correctly in terms of how to address it is where they consistently fell short. Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to go to break, and when we come back, we're going to finish up with the disses, and we'll talk about some positive things moving forward. Hopefully, that will help other parents have a different outcome in terms of the overwhelming nature of having a profoundly gifted and talented child. Yeah. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Mastering math can be big fun for you and everyone. Play it each and every day. Master math the easy way. Say it, play it, Math Maze.
Why not turn math time into fun time with Math Maze, the new game craze? Get yours today at mathmaze.us.
Mom, now you can help your son master math and have big fun. Play it each and every day. Master math the easy way. Say it, play it. Math Maze.
Make sure your child owns the skills necessary for success in high school algebra. Get it now. Mathmaze.us. Mathmaze.us.
And now you can help your daughter play it like you know you oughta. Play it each and every day. Master math the easy way. Say it, play it. Math Maze.
Math Maze cards contain both Spanish and English. Get yours today at mathmaze.us. That's mathmaze.us.
Thank you so much for joining the Carolyn Holt Show this evening. I'm here with author Donna Shannon, and Donna has written a new book. It's called Beyond Miseducation. You can find her book on Amazon, and the intent of the book is to help parents navigate the challenges associated with profoundly gifted students and handling the labeling that they get along the way when perhaps they are not supported in a way that's beneficial to them. So we were down to benefit. And during the break, Donna looked at me and she said, you know, all of these are legitimate words. I looked them up. So if you're thinking, I've never heard that word before, well, check it out. You learn something new. Okay, we're down to disbenefit. So what was going on for your son at this point?
Okay, this was 6th grade, and he was going to a different school then, known to be a better behaved school. They actually, if I remember right, had little contracts that the family signed.
Oh, okay.
And he didn't stay there long. Because they were a better behaved school, a lot of families were trying to get their kids in there, and so it was very crowded.
Okay.
And a common trait among a lot of gifted, highly gifted, profoundly gifted children is they don't like noise. And I don't know if maybe they don't like crowds, but I know noise is an issue, and my son was not happy with all the noise. And he wasn't, again, able to get certain classes that he wanted to take. For example, in 5th grade, when he was taking those 6th and 7th grade classes, one of the classes he had was 7th grade band.
Okay.
He wanted to learn the saxophone. He had never played it before. His teacher, it was only his band teachers that really appreciated him and treated him, I think, fairly. This teacher put him with his best student for a couple of weeks. Then he joined the class and played in all the concerts and aced the class.
Okay.
So you would think he could go on to 8th grade band after that. No, they were worried about maturity. I wish they would have allowed him to take it at least conditionally, and if he couldn't cut it, then he'd have to. But no, they didn't allow that. So he really didn't have anything to look forward to there. He wasn't happy, so I took him out and homeschooled.
Oh, okay. Well, the last is dispiritedness, and by now he's a little older, and there are, I guess, social issues are kind of starting to come in to play as he got a little older. So how as mom, how did you address that? How did you?
His social issues really didn't change. He couldn't relate with his age.
But in terms of how the kids received that from him, you know, they are, I guess, if they're like junior high, you know, they're probably worried about what's going to happen on Friday night and going to a friend's house or sleepover, whatever they do in junior high.
Yeah, he didn't have any of that.
Yeah, so
he didn't have that kind of relationship with those kids. And again, the teachers seemed to literally resent his presence. Really, at that school, it was almost as if the principal just flat out didn't like him or didn't like me, so sort of did whatever to spite me through him. I don't know. It was a mess.
But homeschooling, it was clear then that this was probably the best.
Yeah. After that first semester, the fall semester of 7th grade, I told him he would never have to go back to public school. And shortly after that, I had a friend who's a teacher, here in Los Angeles, who told me about a program at Cal State LA that she felt sure my son could test into. And she didn't mention it until I mentioned to her that I was ready to leave Virginia. I just didn't know where to go, and that I was going to sell the house. And she said, "Oh, well, if you're ready, this is, blah, blah, blah. Your son should come out here, but you have to hurry up," because he was 14 by then, and he's about to age out of this opportunity.
Okay.
So I sold the house, got him out there. He took the test. He got into the program,
and so he went to Cal State LA at what age?
14.
At 14. Wow. But as a mother, though, you had to be awfully proud of your son.
Oh, I was. Because he, for 2 years before he took that test, we really weren't doing school. I had taken him literally as far as I could. So I was letting him investigate whatever he was interested in, and he was learning stuff on the computer, teaching himself things. When he took the test, it was the Washington pre-test to get into that program. I was told he had just missed the cutoff for the full-time early college classes, which is what he should have had. And by just missing it, I know it was something or some things that I had not known to expose him to. And no matter how smart he was, he couldn't know what he had never seen. Right. So that was how that went. And then California, and I don't know if this is unique to California, but California would not let him take the high school proficiency exam, the legal equivalent to a high school diploma. They wouldn't let him take it till he turned 16. Okay. And he couldn't legally, supposedly, take more college classes outside of that Cal State program without having this test saying that he did not need any high school anymore. Right. So for 2 more years, he twiddled his thumbs and learned, taught himself a lot of stuff on the computer, and was taking 1 or 2 classes at a time. As soon as he turned 16, he took that test and passed it, so he had that out of the way. And for the rest of his early college, he was at Santa Monica College, which we didn't mind because we had heard they feed into the best schools in the country. But somewhere along the line, he applied for a scholarship and got it. They gave him a scholarship. I think it was a full scholarship at Santa Monica College. But by then, Donnie wanted a break. Oh, Mom, I need a break, please. I don't want to go back to school right now. He was developing a business idea. Okay. And he wanted to pursue that. And I felt he needed the break. And I was so tired and worn out, I couldn't fight him on it.
So you heard him when he said, Mom, I need a break. You went, I need one too. So. Yeah. And that's an important thing to mention, parents, is that we have to own when we need things. We teach our children sometimes, you just persevere and you just keep going. And while you do want to persevere and you do want to keep going, you don't want to wear yourself out so that when you get to where you're going, there's nothing left. So it's okay to acknowledge and admit that we're tired and we need a break too. But I know that parents struggle with that oh my God, if I own up to having need of this, then my child, they won't get the skills they need to really cope with the same issues when they're faced with that. But it's okay to acknowledge that. Yeah. Now, you mentioned that the book, the Beyond Miseducation, was the title was taken from something that was written by a book that was written by Dr. Carter G. Woodson. And he wrote his book in, 1933?
Yes. Still relevant today.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that. How would you describe the relevance of Dr. Woodson's book then and what's going on with education now?
Well, statistically, it is a fact that special ed is full of black kids. Our children are most of what's in special ed, and because parents...
Well, black and brown kids out here.
Yes. And parents don't realize that they really need to advocate, find out everything that's going on. Don't just take the school's word that there's something wrong with your child. Pay attention. So I quoted 2 things from Carter G. Woodson's book at the beginning of my book. One on page 22 that says, the education of the Negroes then, the most important thing in the uplift of the Negroes, is almost entirely in the hands of those who have enslaved them. Meaning that white people control the public school system. They do. There are certainly black principals and a lot of black teachers, but they've learned what they know from the white schools that most of them went to, or maybe that's not entirely fair to say, but it's a white culture that controls what goes on with public school. And the culture does not look for gifts in black children. And if they're bored and playing around because they don't know what else to do, well, there's got to be something wrong with them. Parents have to be involved. And the other quote I have here from page 84 says, when you determine what a man shall think, you do not have to compel him to accept an inferior status, for he will seek it for himself. So if the school is constantly telling a kid something's wrong with you, you can't get this, you can't behave, you need special ed, almost saying you're dumb, you need to be in class with the dumb kids. That's a stigma that follows them the rest of their school career. And it hurts. I'm sure it hurts them. And they believe that about themselves, so they don't really try.
Yes. Well, I know that there's also a statistic that says that with the current school system, especially in the state of California, by 4th grade, they have identified the males that will be part of the prison system.
Yes.
And to me, that's, as a parent, I would have pulled all my hair out if they had come to me with that kind of nonsense. Yeah. The problem is, though, like you said, we just can't sit idly by, though, and go by just because someone is saying something. We need to prove that it is true. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you suggest, and I like this, is that you tell kids to dream big and to stay strong, and I agree with that. But how do you think that would look, though? What how will they recognize when they've had a big dream and they've stayed strong? How will that look to them?
And I think that's hard for a little child when all the tall people are telling you something's wrong with you. But if they can hold on to their dream and their goal, and just if the parents would help them to understand, well, you may have to pursue this outside of public school. Don't let it go. We'll get some resources on our own to keep their dream alive. Yes. In my son's case, he had so many different strengths and interests: photography, science, music, just all kinds of things. By the time public school was through with him, all of that was gone. But in his free time, when in California he couldn't go to school full time until he took that California high school proficiency exam, he was learning a lot on the computer. Okay. And that's how he started developing his business concept. And he held on to that. And it's been over 10 years now. He's still working on it. He hasn't been able to make money at it yet. As Paul Mooney might say, he doesn't have the complexion for the protection of the collection. Money's an issue. Connections are an issue. But he hasn't given up, and I admire
Paul
him for
Mooney
that.
Is something else with words, isn't he?
Yeah.
But I love Paul Mooney because if you... in the vernacular of the neighborhood, if you want to know it's great, then Paul will give it to you.
He sure will.
But the key point is this: that he has found some happiness in some of his pursuits, and there are many people who are able to fit into the educational system, but at the end of their education, they haven't found happiness in terms of their pursuits. Yeah. So I just want to say thank you, because it is a journey, helping our children go through different phases in life and helping them be okay on the other side. And the key factor is this: he's pursuing something that he likes, and whether it ever makes a dime, it's completing something. There was an educator on my show earlier in the year, and that was one of the things that she said that parents need to help most with, is helping our children complete something. Now, many times people think that completion means that it has to reap some kind of reward. No, completion means just that. You finish something and you've done it, and what the outcome is may or may not support you, but it doesn't mean that it's not a good thing because you did complete something. So I think, especially with our male children, we have to support them, because they do fidget and move around and do things that may be annoying and difficult to tolerate in the classroom, but I applaud you for being mom in charge and mom connected, because so many times if you're unavailable and you've kind of checked out as a parent, you can't see the struggles that your children are going through, and you only recognize them, much later in life when probably they become an adult. So I want to thank you for writing such a comprehensive book to help parents make decisions and not be able to say, well, I would have done such and such if I had just known or I'd had more information. Yeah. Well, the information is available, and the information is available in Donna Shannon's book, Beyond Miseducation, and you can pick up a copy on Amazon. Just go to books, and there you will find her book. Also, one last thing. There is the sponsor of this show, Math Maze. You mentioned in the book that it's one of the best tools out there in terms of helping your children. We're about to wrap the show up, but in what way would you say Math Maze is really a great tool to help children?
Well, our American schools in world rankings are kind of in the toilet, as most people know, and math is really, really pitiful. Yes. And this game, I've helped the inventor, Mr. Glimpf, with various math clinics and teaching seminars and stuff, and I've seen how children and parents, even teachers, come in and they're, I don't know about this, I don't really want to be here. Every last one of them will love it. They get involved, they get excited because it's not like any other game. And it's important that children like math, not be afraid of it. Yeah. And I think probably most people feel if you're good at math, that means you're smart, and you can be good at anything. If you can't handle math, I'm not a good student. So this game, and even if you're brilliant at math, this game will allow you to practice and hone your skills and go even farther.
And it helps children and parents do it together.
Yes,
and that's the beauty of it.
You don't have to be an expert at math, parents. You will have fun just like kids that aren't experts at math.
Right, right. Well, Donna, again, I thank you so much for sharing your book, Beyond Miseducation.
And may I say one more thing?
Yes.
Because we didn't get to part 2, and I just want everyone to know that in part 2, there's research information and suggestions and encouragement, and I talk about homeschooling and just options for parents. The first part is my son's story, but the second part is really information to help other parents.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Keep your head up, and remember that this show is to help you move from misery to magnificence and from subpar to spectacular. Have a great night, everybody. See you later.
Mastering math can be big fun. Fun for you and everyone. Play it each and every day. Master math the easy way. Say it, play it, Math Maze.
Why not turn math time into fun time with Math Maze, the new game craze? Get yours today at mathmaze.us.
Mom, now you can help your son master math and have big fun. Play it each and every day. Master math the easy way. Say it, play it. Math Maze.
Make sure your child owns the skills necessary for success in high school algebra. Get it now. Mathmaze.us. Mathmaze.us.
Dad, now you can help your daughter play it like you know you oughta. Play it each and every day. Master math the easy way. Say it, play it. Math Maze.
Math Maze cards contain both Spanish and English. Get yours today at mathmaze.us. That's mathmaze.us.
But don't forget, girl, keep